The prosecution rests its case in the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Now it's the defense's turn. New information on when the average American might be able to get the COVID vaccine. And Taylor Swift re-records her hits. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Friday, February 12th. I am Jill Wagner. Carlo is still off, but I'm here with Baker Machado. Hi, Baker.
Who needs Carlo Versano? What a Friday treat, Jill, and happy early Valentine's Day to you.
I just realized I'm wearing red, not on purpose, but I guess love is in the air.
We have to be thankful for something around here, Jill. Everything else is so cold, dark, miserable, awful. So I will take any sort of love we can get right now.
Well, on that note, let's talk impeachment, which sort of fits all those descriptions. House impeachment managers have rested their case with a passionate plea for common sense and a recognition of the damage caused by those Capitol Hill riots, which they say would not have occurred without former President Donald Trump's incitement. At noon today, Trump's defense team gets their chance at a rebuttal, which will likely double down on the argument that Trump should not be held responsible for the actions of the mob, despite his often incendiary rhetoric. Baker, yesterday, the lead House manager, Jamie Raskin, asked the Senate, he said, quote, "If you think this is not impeachable, what is? What would be? If you don't find this a high crime and misdemeanor today, you have set a new terrible standard for presidential misconduct in the United States of America." Thoughts? I know you've been watching the impeachment pretty closely.
Yeah, Jill, by the way, that same argument is the same one Chris Christie has made exactly the same thing. If this is not an impeachable offense, what exactly is? You're essentially starting this precedent that this potentially is not a chargeable offense. President Trump's team basically going to go something completely different. We saw basically 2 days of arguments from House managers. President Trump's team today likely going to wrap it up. It's going to be a short one, Jill. We're thinking they might go only 3 to 4 hours today. They're likely going to play a lot of clips as well, like Democrats did, but this one's going to be a little bit different. This one, they're going to focus on Democratic hypocrisy, according to them. They're going to apparently show clips of Chuck Schumer, Maxine Waters, Cory Booker, all apparently advocating violence on their own. They're apparently also going to show footage of the riots in Portland as well. I don't know what that has to do with what happened on the Capitol, that you can make a whole nother argument about the how people talk on Capitol Hill, but this is different, obviously, from what we saw on January the 6th. Essentially then, Jill, this would go Saturday to where the senators would ask questions and potentially even vote to either convict or acquit President Trump, likely to acquit Saturday or even Sunday. So this could be wrapped up very, very soon.
I'm sure Joe Biden will be happy about that.
And I'm sure President Trump as well. President Trump wants this to get over as well. And I'm sure Republicans, and even, to be honest, I think Chuck Schumer wants it over as well. And the other thing, though, Jill, I mean, President Trump's team going so quick, they honestly could throw color bars up there and do nothing. They already know that they have the votes to acquit the president. So in many ways, for them, it's just say whatever President Trump wants you to say to sort of clear the air and then just get off the stage.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm definitely, I think we're going to be watching today. And if it wraps up this weekend, then, I guess, it is a little sad because it's like, we know the outcome of this thing. But you'd like to think that the jury was listening with some type of an open mind. The fact that it's just a foregone conclusion, Jill, that wouldn't be allowed in any other court.
Jill, you're 100% right. And it's crazy because we've heard reports that some of the Republican senators like James Lankford of Oklahoma, who already voted to say that he didn't want this trial to happen in the first place, visibly upset by some of the images of the rioters on Capitol Hill. And then there's now reports that some of these jurors, being Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, and others, are already meeting with President Trump's attorneys. I mean, that is already showing you how crazy this trial is. When have you ever heard of a case where the jury is meeting with the defense lawyers? That would never happen in any other court except for what we're seeing right now.
I mean, I don't know much about court. I'm thinking of The Good Wife and Good Fight. And I feel like that would be case for the trial, for a mistrial.
Yeah, that would be a mistrial. In any other trial.
Baker, let's just switch gears and talk a little coronavirus. Dr. Fauci announcing that he thinks April will likely be the beginning of quote open season when it comes to vaccine eligibility. He said as we get into March and April, the number of available doses will allow for much more of a mass vaccination approach. That day cannot come soon enough. This vaccine shortage forced Los Angeles to actually close 5 inoculation sites, including one at Dodger Stadium, which is the largest in the country. There also are some updated quarantine recommendations now. If you are a fully vaccinated person, meaning you've gotten your 2 shots and you're at the end of that period, a week or 2 after the second shot, if you have been exposed to somebody with COVID-19, as long as you are not showing symptoms, you do not have to quarantine. They ask that you still wear masks. But okay, so that's one change. Other than that, they're like, pretend you never got the shot and just continue to stay home.
Yeah, and on top of all of this, Joe Biden yesterday announcing that the administration buying 200 million additional doses from Pfizer and Moderna. They're essentially saying now, Jill, that this is going to cover 300 million people by the end of the summer. So the hope is that you reach herd immunity by maybe the early parts of the fall. The worry, though, that the Biden administration is saying that they don't think we're going to get to herd immunity maybe until Thanksgiving or maybe even the winter of this year, which just makes it all the more worse. Jill, also on the COVID front, there was this incredible piece yesterday in the New York Times from Maggie Haberman about President Trump. Apparently his diagnosis when it came to COVID, when he contracted the virus, obviously much worse than we were led on to believe, even though we were asking a lot of questions from his doctors and we're not getting a lot of answers. Apparently, he had extremely depressed blood oxygen levels. At one point, even had a lung problem associated with pneumonia. Apparently, his oxygen levels were so concerning, they were dipping into the 80s, according to the New York Times. Apparently, if your blood levels reach even the 90s, the low 90s, that is cause for huge concerns, maybe even being put on a ventilator at that point, Jill. So the fact that President Trump was in the 80s goes to show how serious this all was at the time. And again, we know President Trump got a cocktail of a bunch of different drugs to really help him throughout all of this, but clearly much worse than what his doctors were telling us back in the day when he was at Walter Reed.
Yeah, I mean, really interesting. That reporting was incredible because it just shows how little we actually knew about what was going on at the time. Yep. And they basically said to him, according to this reporting, he didn't want to go to the hospital. He was fighting it. And they're like, either you're going to be able to walk out and have the visual of you walking onto the chopper, or we're going to have to carry you out. Like if you wait that much longer, you're going to be we're going to have to physically carry you out, but by Secret Service. So, just incredible insight.
And by the way, Trump, who is very image obsessed, he always wants to project strength all the time. Obviously, that's why he walked to the helicopter, because he does not want that visual of him being carried out by medical staff, which only will then further the concern that the American public had at the time of him contracting the virus.
And given how sick he was, it is surprising that he came out afterward and continued to downplay it and to say it wasn't a big deal, because the thinking was, okay, you weren't so sick, right? Like you had the best medical treatment and they nipped it right in the bud. But the fact that he was so sick and still came out and said, don't let it dominate your lives, it's just incredible. Baker, let's talk a little business news. Bumble, a big IPO. Bumble's big date with the public markets went off without a hitch. The dating app, known for letting female users make the first move, opened on the NASDAQ at $76 per share on Thursday afternoon. It was one of the biggest IPOs of the year so far. The company is planning to expand to 2 non-dating products, including Bumble BFF, an app for forming platonic friendships, and Bumble Biz, an app for building business relationships.
Yeah, Whitney Wolfe Herd, by the way, who is the founder of Bumble, such an incredible story for her. She's only 31 years old. She's now the youngest self-made female billionaire. She's also the very first female to take a company public at her age, at 31 years old, the youngest to be able to do that. Now, she has a 12% stake in Bumble right now, which, by the way, is valued at about $1.6 billion as of Thursday. They're thinking potentially upwards of almost $7 billion is how much this company is worth, Jill. All for a dating app, which is really fascinating given the fact that the dating sphere is really consolidated. Match Group owns almost all of them. OkCupid, Tinder, all of that. So Bumble's kind of on its own on this side. And the only big question it's always been for these dating apps is how do you sort of diversify outside of just solely focused on just dating? Clearly she knows that, which is why she's doing a BFF and other things as well.
You know, I'm not looking for, I don't know. I guess I'd be the target audience for that type of product.
Right.
I don't know if I'm looking for the BFF. I think I'd more, I think the business opportunity idea sounds pretty interesting.
Hey,
as
listen,
a way to make contact.
Listen, in my earlier single days, when I was on another dating app called Grindr a long time ago, there would be girls that would get on Grindr, and they were specifically only looking for gay BFFs on there. So there is a market out there for girls that want to find a bestie, although they were using the wrong platform for it.
That's amazing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah, it happens. It happens all the time.
You were probably like, I think you might be on the wrong app.
Right, exactly. Listen, girl, I would love to be besties with you, but this guy over here looks really cute. I got to talk to him first.
By the way, that CEO, Whitney Wolfe Herd, she rang the opening bell at the NASDAQ yesterday. She was holding her young son, who looked to be a toddler. I have to say, I feel like I have a heart of stone, but I was honestly kind of moved because it was it felt like such a big day for women, for women entrepreneurs, for women founders, for mothers. It was nice to see.
All of it is amazing to see, and especially because, Jill, there's not very many women out there that are CEOs of a company and also juggling having kids in a pandemic while taking your company public. I mean, that is the Lord's work, Jill, right there.
Yeah, speaking of powerful women, Taylor Swift dropped a re-recorded version of her hit song Love Story overnight. Parts of the megastar's effort to re-record and re-release her entire catalog after the original rights were sold. It's like such a baller move, right? I mean, this was all part of her beef with Scooter Braun, and she's basically saying, all right, you own them, I'm just going to re-record them, and then it's a way for me to own them. I know you listened, right?
I did.
How was the music?
Jill, when I get up, at 3 o'clock in the morning, usually reading all the news, I need to listen to something. So yeah, I listened to Taylor Swift's single for Love Story, by the way, she recorded this when she was literally a teenager. It was so long ago. And to be honest, it doesn't sound any different. It's actually amazing, because I'm usually very skeptical of when artists re-record songs, because usually their voice changes because they've gotten older or they don't have the same producer that's been mixing the song. So there's little tweaks that are a little bit different. This sounds exactly the same. It's really impressive how she was able to pull it off. I don't know if you're familiar with the pop star JoJo. She had a similar situation. She had this argument with Disney, who owned the rights to her music. So she re-recorded all of her songs.
JoJo Siwa?
No, that's a YouTube star. This is very different. She had this song called Leave, Get Out. Nah. Anyway, she did that song when she was a teenager, had her fight with her record label. They kept the rights to her songs, so she re-recorded all the songs. And so when she did, it sounded so different, because she was older and all of that. Taylor Swift, because she's a goddess, doesn't sound any different whatsoever. And the best part for her, the record label that owns the rights to the previous version of this gets none of the royalties for it. She gets all of it now. And she has plans to do this for all of her songs that were in those old back catalogs.
Very cool. You've piqued my interest. I'm gonna listen. So how do you know? I guess it just looks different. How do you know if you're streaming the new one or the old one?
So I don't know what platform you use. I just use Spotify. Just type in Taylor Swift, and it's at the top of Taylor Swift's profile, and it says Love Story, because it just came out. It just came out today, so it's the most recent thing that's been updated to her profile.
Okay, we also have an update to that Gorilla Glue story, the sad saga of Tessica Brown, who made the mistake of using Gorilla Glue as hairspray and struggled for weeks to get it out. Well, it's come to a happy conclusion. Beverly Hills plastic surgeon Dr. Michael Obeng was actually able to remove the glue free of charge. He used a combination of medical grade adhesive remover, olive oil, aloe vera, and a touch of acetone. Brown, for her part, said she's got big plans for the weekend.
Yeah, of course. Going out in public finally because your hair is not full of cement. I mean, my heart broke for this poor girl, mainly because, like, I know that would be something maybe I would do, so I felt really bad for her. Not like I would put Gorilla Glue in my hair, but how many times maybe you're looking for, you've lost the first product that you traditionally use for something, and you're like, oh, this thing is left around in my house, I'll just use this instead. That's essentially why she put Gorilla Glue in her hair. Also because it didn't explicitly say on the label, please don't put in hair, it said don't put on skin, so she thought she was fine. I mean, yes, it is really stupid what happened, but I felt terrible for her because this had gone on for so long. And I don't know, Jill, if you've used this Gorilla Glue, but it literally is cement. So the fact that she, like, basically her hair was stuck in this stuff for as long as she did is awful. There were reports, by the way, that she maybe was thinking of suing Gorilla Glue because it didn't explicitly say on the label, don't put in your hair. But apparently she is downplaying those reports, saying she has no plans to sue them.
Well, I'm just glad that she's,
Me too.
you know, that she's okay. And I had just like a headache even just thinking about it. My gosh.
Well, finally she gets to let her hair down.
Let's do a little Love Hate 8, Baker, to end the week.
So I want to be clear for people, these Carlo Versano, before he left, wrote these. So if our viewers and our listeners are like, what? This is a Carlo, right?
Okay, well, so no, so Carlo and I write these together. So the first one is mine. You're going to read Carlo's is the second one with a little bit of my contribution.
Okay,
so I'm going to go with
it.
one thing that we love, a good, strong cup of coffee first thing in the morning.
Amen.
These days, it is the little things.
Amen.
You're a coffee drinker, right?
Yes, Jill, and it's fascinating for you because I don't know if our viewers know, you, before the pandemic, would famously go and have the coffee down at like the carts outside the building,
Yes.
Which, by the way, I don't even know if that's coffee because it's like so overwatered, all of that stuff. So the fact that you're saying you want like an amazing cup of coffee is really funny to me, given the fact that you had street vendor coffee for so long.
Oh, no, I'm still on the street vendor coffee. I consider that a good cup of coffee.
Yes.
So that's where like my barometer is, Baker. Not everyone was a barista in a former
that's
life.
true. Good point. Yes, that's true. Very good point. Okay, meanwhile, one thing we hate, according to Carlo, waiting at the doctor's office. Why is the doctor apparently always late? And why do we have to sit in an office filled with other sick people? It seems counterproductive. You know what's interesting? There is this huge new, boutique medical craze that's out there. There's companies out there that basically specialize, that you pay extra per month, that you don't have to wait in line when you get there or any of this stuff. So my advice to Carlo, look for one of those companies if you don't want to stand in line with sick people.
Sign me up for that. And then one thing that we ate, this is a Carlo one. Not this. Okay, so remember the Super Bowl. This was the Super Bowl week. Nachos with Cool Ranch Doritos as a base.
Ooh.
Our Super Bowl treat. Healthy? Not exactly. Delicious?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my God, that sounds beyond delicious. And you could do a variety of different Doritos as the base for your nachos. That sounds amazing. We did a cookie salad at my house. You just get like a bunch of different flavor Oreos, put them in a bowl and mix them together. It was a recipe that was handed down to me, so it was very delicious at our house.
And very nutritious.
Oh, very
Salad was
nutritious.
in the title.
Yeah, this is why I've been having to do ab classes for like the next 2 weeks just to make up for what I had.
Oh, sure, Baker. I always say the biggest surprise with you is that you're like 6'4" and so thin. You're
So
like
thin.
very narrow.
Yes, real thin. People say my doppelganger is that guy from The Nightmare Before Christmas, that thin guy, the main guy. He's like a scarecrow.
All right, we're going to leave it there, everybody. That is what you need to know for Friday, February 12th. Baker.
Good to see you.
So great to have you on this Friday.
Good to be here. So always love to be on the show, Jill.
And we are off on Monday because it is a holiday.
Oh,
so,
even
back on
better.
Tuesday.
We're going to sleep in for 3 days.
Bye, everyone.